it's still going. That. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. September 15th, 2018, episode 20 of Texas Soccer Live. It's kind of crazy. It's been 20 episodes, but here we are, and we wanted to come to you live for our September show this year. Soccer is in full swing all around the world, so a lot to talk about today from Liga MX we're going to kick off with. So if you're watching this on playback, we're going to talk Mexican soccer first. We'll talk about Dynamo and MLS, U.S. soccer second, and then we'll wrap things up with looking at Europe and looking at the big board and seeing how their seasons are starting out now that they're about a month into things. So, let's get started today. I got Raul with me. We'll be going to the Dynamo game later on. But first, before we get into all that business, let's look at some Mexican soccer. We're about midway through. This is week 9. So we're about to see, get into the second half of the season, things getting for real. Couple things to highlight, and before I turn it over to Raul and get his thoughts on the season, we have one team that is yet to lose in Cruz Azul, and we've had one team that's yet to win in Atlas, and everyone else seems to be clumped up in between. So what are your kind of impressions? We're now into week 9, midway point. Is the season you've expected so far?
It's kind of what I expected. I mean, it's just weird seeing Cruz Azul still winning games. I thought they would have fell by now, but I don't know. They look like they can take it away this season. Who knows? They look pretty strong, but I mean, it's the same teams as always. I mean, you got Monterrey, you got Tigres, you got Santos, you got America. Your typical teams that you would normally see in the top 8. There's a few teams that did fall that I expected to be up there. Tijuana, who's always up there, they're not in the top 8. Atlas is just disappointing. I don't know what the hell's going on with them. They haven't won a single game, so it's just weird. They normally at least win like 1 or 2, but they haven't won none, and we're already in week 9. But yeah, it looks pretty normal to me, and then the difference isn't that, the difference between the points isn't that bad, so I mean, a lot of wins and losses could move the table a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, one thing, like, want to update the standings. Like I said, last night's game, for example, Toluca was in 8th place, and as I updated the board here, they're now in 2nd place. So that's how close it is. Literally 3 points can pole vault you from almost not in the playoffs to a second. Like I said, the rest of the teams have to play, but interesting how that's going. So let's do a quick rundown now that we're midway through. Some interesting games this week coming up. As I mentioned before, Toluca played last night, won 3-2 against Veracruz, with Veracruz getting a red card. But a full deck of games, full slate of games on deck for today. So let me go through and you give me your winners and or losers, however you want to do it. So Saturday's games, first of all, we have Querétaro at home against Puebla. What do you got?
Take Querétaro winning.
What's interesting about that? I'm surprised. Do you think they're for real? Because all of a sudden, Querétaro was one that kind of caught my eye. Like they've never really been a playoff team, but they've been pretty consistent. I mean, yeah, they're in sixth place, whatever. But I mean, pretty quality. I mean, a 4-win side, two ties, 2 losses, +2. I mean, I don't know about them. I'll see if they're out. I mean, they're kind of interesting. Could be a dark horse for me later on, but I think they'll get the job done against Puebla. Your Tigres going on the road against Pachuca, who's been kind of floundering all season. How do you see that game playing out?
Well, hopefully we win, but I think, I don't know, Tigres has its good days and its bad days, and I don't know what's up with them, but I'm going to pick them to win this game, hopefully.
Yeah, as much as maybe your Tigres have been unpredictable, I think Pachuca has been even more unpredictable of late, and sometimes you get a good side, sometimes you get a bad side.
Ever since they lost Chucky Lozano to PSV, I think they kind of fell because he was the main player for their team, so now that he's gone, it's like, oh well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because Pachuca always brings in young talent, they develop them, and then they end up leaving, so I mean, it's just the way that it works.
Our friends over at Club America are home at Azteca against Monarcas, Morelia.
I'm going to pick Monarcas on that one.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. I mean, Morelia has been another team that's been up and down, but has been pretty consistent. And like I said, they're right on the cusp of being a solid playoff team. I don't know if they're going to pull it out tonight, but I do see them sticking around. I'm going to go with America on this one, even though I obviously don't like them. Next question. Cruz Azul goes on the road in Necaxa. Is that going to stay perfect, or are they going to finally lose a game?
I think Necaxa can actually put up a fight, so I think that's going to end up in a tie. Either a tie or maybe Cruz Azul finally loses on the road.
And another interesting one. Well, I'm going to go. I think I'm Cruz Azul. I think at worst it would be a tie for them, but I think what's interesting about their schedule is I think their schedule gets much tougher in the last stretch, which is right when you don't want it, because we all know these final playoff spots are not going to be determined until the final month of the season. Yeah. Those last 4 games are going to determine everything. So they have some very difficult games at the very end, so it'll be interesting. My team, Monterrey, the Rayados, are at home against lowly Chivas. How do you think your rivals are going to fare?
I think Monterrey can win. Chivas hasn't won a game. I don't think they've won a game this season at all. I think the last time that they won a game was the game against Toronto.
No, they've won a couple this year with some close ones, but they're not in the bottom anymore. They are in 12th place, but they've racked up 10 points. But so they are still technically, I guess, in the hunt. But there's been nothing impressive about them, and they're also a team that is absolutely terrible on the road. I will say this though, I've been a little shaky about Rayados, even at home. They're a team that has the last 2 games. The last 2 games have given up, not completely given up, leads. They've had solid leads. This last game should have been a win, and they give up 2 goals and get a tie late in games. So finishing games has become a problem for them. Sunday we got 3 games. We have another team that's been performing pretty well, carrying over from last year. Pumas is at home against Lobos, second to last.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna pick Pumas on this one.
And then
it's Lobos, so
yeah, the Lobos I think is on their way eventually to getting relegated back down. And then you have Santos at home against Leon.
I'm gonna pick Santos. Leon fell bad. I don't know what the hell happened to them.
Yeah, I guess Landon Donovan's wasn't the trick for for Leon. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Santos in that one. And then finally. Does Atlas have a chance of getting a win against Tijuana?
I'm going to go with Atlas on this one because they're both at the bottom. So, I mean, I'm going to pick Atlas to finally get one win. If
there's going to be a game that they actually get a win, I mean, keep in mind, Atlas, in terms of who they've played the 2 other teams that are right in front of them in the bottom. They've played Lobos and Veracruz and have lost to both of them. So the next 2 up in order are Necaxa and Tijuana. So you would say logically, if they're going to win a game, it's going to be against one of those other teams that are in the bottom like them. So a couple things as we round out. I always like looking at this, and I want to get your thoughts. I just find it interesting how ESPN, and ESPN is just one source, but how ESPN FC has their power rankings, which I think is so dumb for Mexican soccer. But we're going to talk about it anyway. They obviously have Cruz Azul first, and then they are still high on America. Why? Why is the media literally writing America? I don't get it. Why they're top 3. I mean, I get it in the standings, they're up there, but it's like these guys have not gotten out of the top 3 power rankings all season long.
It's America just because of their history. They want to stick with them. They say, oh, America has so many championships. We have to support them. They can come back. It's because I think between like the 2010 to where we are now, there was an era where they dominated for a long time. But I guess that's why they're sticking to it. They're expecting them to do that again. But I just think that their time is up. They're not the same America anymore. But yeah, those people, they favorite the 4 big teams of Mexico always. I mean, it's kind of hard to change their mind. And there's a few that admit that they suck and that they need to fall down. But majority of the time, they just praise them way too much.
Right. Well, there's also 2 other teams that they seem to be higher on than the actual rankings. I noticed that Santos has been up there higher than they actually are ranked in real life, and then Morelia. They're obviously they like to favor them. I buy into that one. I think Monarcas is stronger than what they look like on paper. Santos, I'm not too much about. I think they're where they belong. They're a decent team. They're going to be a playoff team, but they don't really wow anything. Something I said, no teams, even our own that we go for. Nobody, and even Cruz Azul, even though they haven't lost again, nobody this season has really just been like dominant. Yeah, you would say that being 6-2-0 would be dominant, but it just doesn't feel like it. I don't know, maybe because it's Cruz Azul, but in the way they're doing it, nobody is just like. For example, there's been so many seasons in the past, when Tigres' last championship run before last, that season, or even some of the more recent, those teams that ended up winning, they were favored, they were dominant. They were dominant in their style, but it's hard to explain and put into words. But it's just, you get what I'm saying. It just doesn't seem like it's anybody's game, is what it feels like, literally.
I mean, with the points separating, I mean, if we win today, we jump up to 3rd place. So I mean, it just depends. I hate that it's always like that, and then now they want to expand teams. It's just I don't get it, but I mean, it's always up for grabs for anybody.
Yeah, what was the talk to go to 20?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I remember seeing that same story about how they basically are thinking about adding 2 more teams to Division 1. The problem is that the requirements to get into Division 1 are so ridiculous.
Well, I know one team that's going to come up, Dorados.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. Well, how about that? Is that for those who aren't aware, Dorados, which has been a consistently Division 2, they've never been up in Division 1, have they?
Yeah, they have.
Oh, yeah.
There was a year.
Yeah, like for a year, but they've been consistently at towards the top end of Division 2. Dorados, which is, in Sinaloa, has a whole issues in and around the team. I remember that talking about players not getting paid their paychecks they're supposed to. Talk about corrupt and just shady business. Anyways, enter our friend Diego Maradona. As we all know, his antics from the World Cup. He's but he's still an international star, soccer star. Considered one of the best players ever. Is now the coach of Dorados in Sinaloa, in the middle of drug cartel country, Mexico. Is it? What the hell is that? Is this a publicity stunt or is this?
Yeah, I think it's a publicity stunt. But I think they also know what they're doing. They're trying to get people to show up. I mean, obviously, if you have somebody like Maradona coaching in your stadium, everybody wants to see him because, I mean, he's a star. He did it all. So it's a publicity stunt. It's a good idea, but I just don't see. I think it's a stupid publicity stunt. It's a good idea, but it's just like, what's the point of it? What are you going to get out of it? You're going to send him to 1st Division, and then what are you going to do now?
Right.
I don't think he's going to be able to control himself in Sinaloa with all the drugs going on. We've seen him in the World Cup.
Well, at least he'll get a sponsor. He can maybe get one of the cartels to sponsor the team, which they probably already are.
He might end the drug war.
Who knows? Yeah. So yeah, interesting stuff going on there. Well, the grind will go on in Liga MX. We'll keep you updated on things. We will see things coming up. And actually, we can talk about this right now, real fast before we move on from Liga MX. Week 10, which thank God is of the last week, we finally have our Classico lined up. How do you see this year's edition of the Classico? Week 10 this time. Potentially both of us going in with the wins. We both going with the wins. We'll be sitting at 19 points. Y'all will be sitting at 16 points. Both solidly top 8 playoff teams.
That game is going to determine. So you guys get a win and we get a win. That's basically going to put us together with the same amount of points.
Correct.
So if we win or if y'all win, it either moves up or not.
And I believe it is at Ticketed Stadium this year. Okay.
I think this is actually going to be more of a fight because they get an extra day of rest. Well, I take that back because we play during the week for the Champions Cup against Toronto. So
I also think both teams, like I said, I talk about nobody being dominant this year. Like both teams have their issues. I think every Classico across the league, obviously we care about ours the most, but every rivalry game this year is kind of, I feel like almost a toss-up, and a lot of them it's a pick-em, just because, like I said, no one has exhibited to me pure dominance. It could be quite the game. Going into it, you guys so far have the leading goal scorer in the league, obviously with Gignac, 6 goals over the first 8 games. We got one of the assisters, Babone actually surprised me and has 3 assists on there. We have a couple Aliados in the assist category. So we'll be spreading around. So it'll be interesting to see 2 pretty good defenses against 2 pretty good offenses. We will see next week who has bragging rights at least until next season. All right, let's switch gears here. I want to make sure I got everything else here on Liga MX, and let's switch over to the Dynamo, which are an interesting story unto themselves. For lack of better words, quite a mess. And so if you're not aware, basically after we've had a brief break for international friendlies. Every league has. I'm hoping that did something for the Dynamo, but they've made it very clear through publicity, through media, that through the coach's own words, that now it's about pride. In other words, they have openly admitted, even though it's mathematically still possible, it's not going to happen, guys. The Dynamo are completely eliminated from the playoffs with still 3 home games on the schedule and 3. So a total of 6 games left, 5 or 6 games.
You would have to win all 6, and then you have to wait for teams.
You're basically right now, I think, like 14 points out of that last playoff spot. That ain't happening. Last three games going back to August, 1-1 tie against Dallas, 0-1 loss to the Red Bulls, and then the 2-4 loss in the Dallas for the international break. They have currently tied the longest winless streak. There have been some ties in there, but of 10 games in a row, they have not won a match or not earned 3 points since July 7th against Minnesota United here at home. If they lose tonight, they will, like I said, break and have set a new, record low, if you will, for a Dynamo team ever, both here and prior as a franchise when they were in San Jose. So that's.
That's what I don't understand is how did we come out swinging and we beat Atlanta, but now we just fall so we took the biggest blow ever. How does that happen? And look at Atlanta. Atlanta's just murdering teams.
I think it's 2 things. If you're gonna knock off a champion or potential champion, it's gonna be at the beginning of a season when people are getting their rust off. It's early in the season, and that seems for me. That's what defines, and that's I'm glad you said that. That's what defines championship teams to me, is who can run the marathon versus the sprint. Dynamo can run the sprint, but they suck at running the marathon. Not long term. Give you a couple prime examples. Seattle was actually lower than us at one point in rankings. Looked like they, out, but because they're a team that has composure and has control and has focus and plays the long game, they're now in 6th place, looking to be in the playoffs with only a few weeks left. Look at a team like DC United, last place in the East. You know what they did? They spent money. Their ownership went and got Wayne Rooney. Yeah, maybe publicity and ticket sales, but he made a real difference. Because guess what? They are now 2 points out of the playoffs. They're in 7th place now. 1 game, 1 win, 1 loss. They're in the playoffs over that 6th place team, over New England. They're right behind them. So
it was like the same thing with Chicago when they brought Schweinsteiger over. He made a difference, but it wasn't that big of a difference like Wayne Rooney is doing. Wayne Rooney basically lifted up DC United, but I also feel the stadium had an impact on them. Now they got their own stadium; they got a lot to play for. So,
well, I see 3 critical factors in a team being successful. I don't care in what league, but especially in MLS. Okay, what I see, number 1 is the team itself and the coach. And that's the most obvious thing, right? As you have basic, successful, solid chemistry, you have talent on the team. Okay, the two things that orbit that are the culture and the fans and the support behind the franchise, the environment they play in. The third is the resources that they are given. That's ownership and the leadership from the top, and the ability to give them the money to go get the players and coaches they need. And likewise, they are all intertwined. Each one feeds off of each one. That's how I see it. The problem with the Dynamo is they are facing a critical issue with all 3 of those elements. They are already going into this season with what I thought was poor messaging and not getting enough, not rallying their fans enough and getting enough fan support. That was also fed by the fact that they weren't playing. They started off not playing well. They did not take advantage of the fact that they were in the Western Conference Finals last year. They did not really ride that momentum.
I don't think they really understood what was going on. Like, yes, they got there and it was a fight, but I think they didn't really think about it to like, oh man, we're really here. Because I'm surprised we beat Portland. We beat Portland, and I was like, okay, we're doing good. But then that Seattle game was just like, all right, these guys weren't ready for this. They didn't expect this.
Well, then you have, like I said, continual. This is where the coaching comes in. All that stuff is messing with the lineup too much and not getting it right too many times. This is a team I've never seen a lineup. Very rarely have I seen a lineup messed with as much times as I've seen this one messed with. And I'm hoping going forward that now they know you're not playing for this season, you're playing for next. Hopefully we see a change and a consistency on who's getting the playing time and getting out there. Look to the future, stop staying stuck in the past. My last one and my biggest issue in the factor is the ownership. I have been very vocal and critical of the general manager and the ownership team of Houston Dynamo. If you want, do not blame the fans. At the end of the day, do not blame the team if you're not going to cough up the freaking money and go get the quality players that we need. Every other MLS team, I don't care, and you can say that I'm wrong, but you look at all the teams who are playoff teams, Eastern Conference, Western Conference, what do they have in common? Their ownership has spent money. Money on the fans, money at the stadium, money on the team, most importantly. And they've gone, and I get it, we're trying to home grow and make the U.S. soccer system better, but you need a shot in the arm to get going, and yes, that means going and getting talented European players or South American players. Go to where the talent is. The talent's not here yet. I'm sorry, it's not. And so look at all these other teams. What do they have in common? They have gone overseas and they've spent the money. And these
Dynamo's just, I don't know, they don't.
Apparently, we want to be the all-star Central American team. We see how that.
They want to be like Chivas, all Americans, homegrown Americans. It's like, no, you can't do that. You got to make some changes. Look at Chivas now; they can't do anything. That's what the Dynamo is doing.
Yeah, I mean that's my thing. And so you put these 3 factors together, and they're just eating at each other, making it worse. One's compounding the other. The ownership not doing that, and the team sucking and not having the chemistry is making the fan support go down, and attendance suck. When attendance sucks, you don't make money, so the ownership's is now losing out, and the guys on the field don't have the support. Right? It's just a vicious cycle, all around. When the guys don't have chemistry, then the people don't come, and they're losing. People don't come to the games. The ownerships are not motivated to spend money because they think they'll be wasting money. So it's just all around those all 3. We have hit a critical mass because we've had all these three utterly come, at the same time. You can handle minor issues with one. The problem is the Dynamo let stuff get out of hand and never got a grasp when they realized they did have a problem. Like you said, oh, we're in the Western Conference Finals. Oh, it was, no, this is a nice surprise. What a nice bonus. No, take advantage of it. Take advantage and say that, yes, we belong here. This is where we're supposed to be. That we're going to accept nothing less of this going forward. And then, look at the shit that they put together.
Well, they strolled in like just playing.
Like they'd won something.
Yeah.
Like they won something. And it also gets me, somebody, here's a chance to win something. Let's switch gears here. Because we'll be at this on the 26th. They are playing in the U.S. Open Cup final against Philadelphia, a team who is a playoff team in the East, a team we've played this season and had a very ugly game against. I have mixed emotions about this if they win it. Because it makes me, on one hand, you'd be happy, your team gets some hardware, you win a long-standing tournament. Great. On the other hand, so what? So what? Because it almost makes you more mad that they were able to win all those games, win that cup, and then in between they decided to not show up to the regular season games. That's what I could not get. When we saw that thriller against LAFC come down to penalties, I'm like, these guys just knocked down the at the time the number 2 team in the West behind Dallas, but then they'll show up next week and play a mediocre team out of the Eastern Conference and get their butts kicked.
It's the lineup. I think Cabrera needs to leave. He's tampering too much with a team that he needs to stick with. You need to have a solid bench. You need to have a solid starting 11. You need to build the chemistry. Don't change it every game. It's not going to work. Cabrera, just in my opinion, needs to leave. He's not gonna do it. And if he throws away the cup game, that's it. He's done.
And in my mind, he may not be the only one that needs to leave because now you start getting some of these players who, quite frankly, who the hell? I'm sorry. Like, I'm going to call people out here. People like Kyoto and Ellis, who the hell are you to have the right to start talking? You got Kyoto here publicly saying, I want to, go to the next step of my career and go to Europe. He ain't saying that. Don't you find that quite a coincidence that he's saying that now? He's claiming, oh, no, it's not because I'm not happy. Why would you say it right now then? Why haven't you been saying it? Why did you make a point of going to the media in a press conference in interviews and saying, oh, now I want to go to the next step of my career and get a place in Europe? First of all, buddy, you're not that good.
Nobody's going to buy him from Europe. You go to Europe, you're going to be on the bench.
You'll be sitting on the bench somewhere in a Division II team in Europe.
It's going to be Division II. Don't expect to go to, Man City or something like that because it's not going to happen, dude.
But that's my point. It's a sense of entitlement. Just because you got to the Western Conference Finals last year doesn't mean that you're entitled to anything. You didn't win anything.
Win it first, then maybe you can say, oh, I just won this. Maybe I can go to Europe. No, buddy, chill out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan. Same thing with his teammate, Elise. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's a good player. But the way I've seen him be a baby on the field and throw temper tantrums, it's not the mark of a leader. I'm looking for a true, I mentioned this, and I told you, I said, I think there's a lot of talent, but there's not a true number 10. There's not a true captain up front of this team. And there sure as hell ain't a captain in the back. No offense to Beasley, but he's about 2 years past where he should have retired. I'm just sorry. Joe Willis has been a great surprise in goal. Hats off to him and salute to him for
we need to keep him
for holding down that goal as best as he could with the crap defensive line they've put out there.
He can only do so much. Just like Jesus.
Well, the combinations they put. I will say this: one of the biggest things that did hit them. There is one thing. They lost Cabezas after the first game, second game of the season. Okay, you lost your best guy from defense, the best guy on the team from the previous year. An MLS All-Star caliber guy, and he's going to be out for the rest of the season. So what? Move on. It's next man up, and they never did that. They could never figure it out. I was so sick of this tinkering, like you said, the lineup of, well, we're going to put Boniek Garcia, or maybe we'll put Leonardo, maybe we'll put Senderos, maybe we'll put Wenger, maybe we'll put, here's Beasley, here's Funmayor now, who I think Funmayor could do something, but he's still a young guy a young guy, when you bring him, especially a guy from another league in another country, and a young one like that, he needs consistent playing time to learn the system, to get through the rust. You can't just say, try one game, and then, sorry, you didn't play well enough, you're off for the next 2 games. That's gonna screw him up even more. And that's what they're doing with these guys. That's why I'm hoping, fingers crossed, these 6 games, now that they know that the writing's on the wall, that you're not in the playoffs, pick a consistent team that, and I have some ideas, a mix of guys who are, going to be returning starters, mix them with young guys who could be the future of your team. And then this offseason, let them build some chemistry and go out and sign a guy or two. I'm not saying it has to be a big, don't go for the flashy name, but go get some legitimate talent, and then put them in there and let the chemistry build and be patient. This is what's driving me nuts. I think it's just they're just not patient. They're just not patient, and they're paying the cost of that.
Yeah, because I also seen that what they need to do is, I heard that there was an offer from an MLS team at some point to buy Gignac. I mean, it's a big name, but it's not a big name like Ronaldo and Messi.
Right.
But see, they know what they're doing, so they wanted to try and buy him out. You can go to Mexico. Mexico, a lot of those players are looking to go to Europe. But look at Carlos Vela. Look at Carlos Vela. He was in Europe, but he came back to play on this side. But I mean, if you can offer them money and you offer them something good, like they offered him, we got a big fan base. You got a new stadium. It was their first year. You got good players to play with you. You got a shot at a trophy right away the first year.
Well, and stop thinking about long term, man. I referenced getting one of these guys. I said a shot in the arm. So it's almost adrenaline type rush. I mean, do you think DC United plans on having Wayne Rooney play for 6, 7, 8 years? No, it's for 2 or 3 years. Give your shot, because by getting that name, it goes to my equation. By getting that name, it excites the fan base. The fan base gets behind your team. When the fan base is behind your team, you start playing better, you start doing better, and you have great. And then those guys start playing better. They get good chemistry together. They start playing together. The ownership sees the benefits of it, and they start putting more money into the team, more development, because they see the potential, success. And then after 2 or 3 years, that name, that star has served their purpose. And guess what you have? A quality, homegrown, created team with a solid base that you can now put pieces in and tweak it. You don't have to be like us, where you're blowing up the damn lineup every game.
Right. And what the Dynamo need to take advantage of, like the community in Houston that follows soccer, they're Hispanic. If you can go out and get big Hispanic players that are like big names, everybody's in their company, because Hispanics, they support Dynamo because they're from Houston, but we all know that they support Chivas, America, stuff like that.
And no offense to any of our Central American friends out there, stop going to Honduras and El Salvador. When we say go sign a big name, go to Brazil, go to Argentina, go over to Spain. Yes, go to those places and say we're for real. We're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we want guys from the top leagues. Go to Brazil's, Premier League. Go to, La Liga. Go to, Argentina's first division. Go to those places and stop going to other countries. No offense to them, but their national leagues are not on the same playing field whatsoever.
You can actually go to Argentina and you can get some good players in the first division because they want to leave Argentina. They don't get paid enough. So
unless you're playing for Boca's or River Plate, they don't really care.
No, even then they want to find a way out because they don't have money to offer. If you take that money, it's because you want to play for a big club that has so much history.
Yeah.
But if you go out and play and you're not happy with it, and then say Dynamo goes and offers you double what you make in Argentina, I would take that. You get a big name from Argentina. The soccer culture there is so big that it's way different from what they use in America. So, they're going to be pretty happy. And then they develop it, and then they start bringing more players.
Well, and I'm warning you, Dynamo ownership. I said this on the last episode. I'm warning you, Dynamo ownership. You already have the number one team in the West up north of us in I-45 who has built a strong fan base that is loyal to them. You're about to have a quality team come into this market when the Columbus Crew, that cell goes through, and they become the Austin Crew or whatever they change the name to, if they change the name. They're going to have a talented team, now only 45 minutes to an hour away from us. So you now have two teams that have spent money, that are proven winners, who are going to have, you can imagine when Austin gets a team, that's their only professional sports team, they're going to get behind them. and be nuts. It's almost like when I remember the Seattle Supersonics became the Thunder. Oklahoma City, you go there, that's their one team. They're fanatic about it. You're going to have two teams. People in Houston, if you don't put together a product, are going to start looking at the other teams. It's not like here where, like, you're not going to see, Texans fans hop over and be Cowboys fans or stuff like that. Soccer's different, and especially when it's still relatively young, not as a sport, but young as a having professional teams in this state. People will switch. I'm not saying they'll switch to FC Dallas, but Austin's another alternative that people will start cheering for. And I'm just saying, people will put their money where they feel like their money is being respected. A, they're getting a quality game experience, both in everything outside of the game, but also what's on the field, right? And B, they feel like the owners are actually paying attention to what their needs are. I'm just saying, there's a big issue going on there. Just put in perspective real quick. So right now, if the playoffs were to happen today, we only have about 6 games left. Some tight races for not the playoffs, but for positioning. Over in the East, New York Red Bulls, for the first time ever this season, have now finally pulled 1 point in front of Atlanta with 55 points. Atlanta 54. New York FC with 49. Columbus 43. Philly with 40. Montreal 36. As I mentioned before, DC is with 34, right behind them, trying to get in and knock out Montreal. So an interesting race for who's going to be get that number 1 seed, especially between the Red Bulls and Atlanta, with NYC having a chance. Same story in the West. Dallas has 49 points. Sporting KC has 48. LAFC has 46. So only 3 points to separate the top 3 teams there. And home field advantage, you're going to be in there. Salt Lake, the surprise team this year. Real Salt Lake with 44. Portland also with 44, who we'll see tonight, playing your Dynamo. Seattle with 41, and they came out of the depths of almost being done. They're not out of the loop, though. Vancouver is sitting there at 40, and the LA Galaxy are sitting there at 38. So a lot of movement could occur with top 8. But my point is, if I kept going down the rankings, if I went past the top 8 in each conference and look at the bottom 4 of each conference, there's a huge drop-off in points. I said the LA Galaxy are in 8th place with 38 points. Well, we're in 10th place with 28 points. So that tells you how far out of it we really are. I think for me, what I'm looking forward to the rest of the season, I want to see consistency with giving the lineup and giving younger guys a shot to play together, along with the guys who are actually going to keep and who want to be on this team. I guess from our visitors, we have some quality opponents that I'm looking forward to seeing. We'll see Portland tonight and their team, a playoff team. We'll get to see, I'll be going to the last, Seattle is the last home game here for your Dynamo, and it'll be interesting to see Seattle's, Dempsey's going to be retiring, so his second to last ever game professionally will be here in Houston, so that'll be in October. Yes, just reading the comments, I definitely agree. It's more, shout out to Joe's mom. I believe they've made more soccer clubs affordable to people. It goes back to the argument we made, I think, since we founded this show about I remember the first year of the show about how the youth systems here, it's not they're not intense enough, but they're not intense enough. There's a lot of access to soccer for youth here, but it's not as competitive as I think it should be. And the Dynamo are not playing as the professional franchise in town. You should be having your one academy is not good enough. You have to get out into the actual neighborhoods, the communities. There's some talented other clubs, youth club academies around the surrounding areas. You go out, north and west and south of town. They need to bring them into their orbit, if you will, and get them connected in and get a bigger system going. And I think that's across the board. And no MLS team has done a great job of that. But, I mean, the amount of youth soccer talent in Texas and especially in the Houston greater metro area is ridiculous. And you're right. There's a lot of talent that's being lost because they're not being served. They're not being served. The talent's going waste. And we can say that for a lot of places, but looking at Houston, there definitely there's an issue. And that's American soccer culture in general. Any other thoughts you have? What you would like to see now that we know that they're out of the playoffs? What you like to see? What should they do, and what should be the focus for the remainder of their season?
They need to go back to the drawing board, start from scratch. Me personally, start looking for another coach. I don't know if it's going to work out. Maybe see if he does something this season, get a few wins before the end of the season. And we already know it's not going to happen for them to get into the playoffs, but pull off like maybe 3 wins, throw on some points, see how they do in the cup. But I think if they want to leave, sell them for some good money, use that money, go out and get a player, a decent player that you know is going to make an impact. Sit down some of the guys, bring in some of the youth that we've seen in the U.S. Open Cup. They look strong, so bring in that youth, see how they do, and I think they just need to start from scratch at the beginning of the season next year, see how they go. But I think the hard work for them is that Open Cup. That's what they need to do.
All right, we're going to wrap up things with I'll give you a quick rundown of the EuroLeagues, and then I want to talk about a little fun episode what we thought of which feel like pointless, but they're still kind of, I guess, remotely a little bit interesting, these international friendly breaks that we're going to have on a monthly basis now, the next one coming up in October. We'll talk about some of those games, including what I thought was pretty kind of silly at times, USA-Mexico match. But first, let's give you a quick rundown of your European leagues now that they're about a month in. Over in England, our top 4 are Liverpool, Chelsea, and the surprise one, Watford, with 12 points. Man City right behind them with 10. Notice that Man U and Arsenal have only gotten 6 and are sitting well out of the race as we start very, very early on. La Liga is also underway finally with, what a surprise, Barcelona, Real Madrid tied at the top with 9 points. So far, so good for them. One noticeable difference is Atletico Madrid is all the way down in 10th to start off, but once again, we're only 3 games in. They've only been able to win 1 of those 3 games. Over in Bundesliga, Dortmund has started off on the right foot, 7 points, with their rivals and the typical powerhouse Bayern with 6, along with Wolfsburg in 3rd. Not a lot of surprises there. Your usual teams you expect to see around there are there. Over in Italy, no surprise as well. Juventus is perfect 3-0 with 9 points to start. One noticeable surprise there is you'll notice in the top 10, you will not see AC Milan. AC Milan is not even in the top 10. They have started off again abysmal. A lot of things wrong with that franchise. We've talked about Ligue MX, we've talked about MLS. Over in France, PSG, what a surprise. They're 15 points, and they've already separated themselves from 2nd and 3rd by 6 points. Expect that gap to get bigger and expect them to basically walk through in their sleep for another domestic title. It's going to be about Champions League for them. Couple interesting things over in Brazil. Internacional and Sao Paulo. I saw interesting they are tied in a heat at 49 points with Palmeiras and Flamengo right behind them. Scotland, for the first time in a long time, a team not named Celtics or Rangers are at the top. There's a team called the Hearts with 12 points. Interesting. And over in Portugal, they've started things off as well in their top tier. And the usual top teams you hear that make it to Champions League out of Portugal, Benfica, Braga, Sporting, and Porto are all tied up, separated by 1 point. And, I put Japan up there too. I can't even say the first place team, but who cares? I like the second place. It's Kawasaki because their name's Kawasaki. Notice me, the Kawashima Antlers are not in the top 4. My favorite team in the J1 League. All right, anyways, moving on to this. Okay, let's try and be nice here first. What are the positive, what's the benefit, or what do we gain as fans, or what do we gain as supporters of a national team from these friendlies?
I think it's just you bring teams after the World Cup, you get to see the players and stuff. But even then, it's not even the same players. Like we played Uruguay here. Only big name was Suarez. Cavani didn't come. I think he's still injured.
He was still hurt.
Mexico, they brought nothing but young talent. I am paying attention a little bit more now to them. They got rid of the coach. I didn't like him. And it's not just because they have Tuca now, because even sometimes I don't agree with Tuca. So I'm paying attention to them. We have young talent, but even then, some of those guys, they didn't show that they were ready to play for the national team. I think they just said, hey, look, we'll give you these young guys, take them, see who you like, see who you want to pick, and you pick out the ones that are ready and whatnot. But they're also doing that because they know that some of these older guys, it basically time's up.
Well, that's it, yeah. And it's the same old stories. They'll shake things up.
Yeah, same with the USA. You've seen that they didn't call up certain people.
Why? Both teams. Well, that's why I kind of like this, because let me say that. Let me say this. It was just a friendly. It's not whatever. USA, calm down. Like, if you watch that friendly when they won 1-0 against Mexico, the USA players and the fans in Nashville acted like we just won the World Cup. That World Cup we didn't get into. Yeah. It's like, guys, calm the F down. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, stop it. But at the same time, what I like about that is it shows the enthusiasm, which I like. And I love that even though it's a new generation of players, these guys still hate each other. Right. I love the fact that when Mexico and USA play each other. And like I said, I'm sorry, you can call us unsportsmanlike, call it what it is, but that's what USA Soccer needs. We need to be a bunch of, not being pushovers, we need to be some cocky badasses. I'm sorry, that's what we need to be. I'm glad, I love how this young squad carries himself. Yeah, they haven't won anything. They haven't proven anything yet on a Saturday show. But they're not just talking, but they're actually doing like they have. They're actually playing their butts off. And I love the trash talk. I love the one moment was with one of the, I think was going to be a star defender, Miazga for is going to play with the USA, and he's like 6'2", 6'3", massive defender, real tall, and he goes up to one of the top young stars. What's his name from America?
I can't remember.
Lanes.
Oh, Lanes, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like what, 5 foot, probably a foot shorter. He's like 5 foot nothing almost, and it's just going at each other. And then in the game Miyaga taunts him by basically looking at his height and basically starts gesturing. The Mexico players get all worked up about it. I'm like, I'm sorry, you're short. And get over it, But I love that sort of trash talk and just getting at each other's heads. And like some people don't think it's classy. Who cares? Like I said, America needs something. The soccer needs something. If it means that we're going to be a bunch of just jerks, and I'm sorry, I'll get behind it. Let's just get a personality, because the USA Soccer has not had a personality in a while. And when you start losing people, you see the generation retire with Dempsey retiring. He was kind of had that badass attitude. I remember back in 2010, kind of had that sort of feel to it, and we had that going for a little bit. And then, I'm sorry, you got a bunch of pushovers the last 2 World Cup cycles. And I want a collection of guys that are going to, just go in there and say, we're here to wreck shop. And even if they don't, they still carry themselves like that. They don't cry and whine, and they're not just stop being a pushover generation of U.S. soccer players, feeling like you're entitled to crap. And
that's why I never really supported Mexico, because a lot of those players, they're pushovers. They like to whine and cry about everything. It's like, play the game, get up.
Yeah,
that's what they did in the World Cup. Yes, they won, but they only won by like one. It was 1-0, 2-0. No. And then majority of the time it was penalties. I didn't see any outstanding goals. The only person that stood out to me in the World Cup was Lozano. I yelled it at the LAFC game. I yelled it at Carlos Vela. I was like, you're the reason that they almost lost every single game, because you suck.
Yeah.
But the rivalry, that rivalry is always going to be there. Everybody wants to see it. But it's good that what they did was like, all right, clean out all the players. Let's bring in young talent, see what we got. Everybody's going to go because it's U.S. and Mexico. But now what they're going to do, they go back to playing the regular season.
Well,
and they come back in October, and I feel like they're going to try and bring in different players.
And with both teams, especially I think more so for the U.S., well, maybe it's for Mexico. The other issue is, as much as that's a bright side, and the rivalry's still there, and there's young talent coming up, and you see a change to the guards, if you will, over the next 4 years. the coaching situation. The Achilles heel for Mexico was coaching. The Achilles heel for USA has been coaching. And so you think, right, that would be a top priority of both federations, right, to sort out their coaching. Neither one of them has done it. Mexico keeps flirting like they've done it and going, oh, we have Tuca, we can do this. Make a decision. And then USA is even worse. I feel bad. I forgot his name, but he's the interim coach. He was the assistant before. Pick a coach, for crying out loud. Because if you're going to either take the interim title off the current coach or get who you're going to get. Because you're going to do the same thing you did for the last 30 years of my lifetime. You're going to waste talent. And Mexico is going to waste talent. That whole generation, I would argue, of Mexico players for the last 12 years has been wasted because they couldn't get the right coach. And it's like, that's the most important thing. It is so vital because as talented as they are, they have to be able to play within the system that coach develops. It's all part of the chemistry of them playing together, how that coach wants them to play. You know, there's so many other factors that go in there. And it's like, that's important. Anyone who knows anything about soccer knows how important it is to have that manager and his philosophy and his scheme in place. And you need time to buy it in. And it's these friendlies who don't count. They don't count for qualifiers. They're not. They don't hurt you if you lose. This is the time that you need to be that those players need to be developing that chemistry, not just with each other, but more even just as important with the coach and his system. Well, what's the system going to be for Team USA? I don't know. We got this system now. You bring in someone new who might have a completely different thing and blow it up. Yeah. Tuca's got his philosophy. Oh hell, we can go through Mexican coaches and the different philosophies that team might be used by, and personnel who gets called up. You got to create some stability, some consistency, and the coach is where it begins. But players will change.
That's the thing about international.
Coaches shouldn't.
The international thing is just like, I feel like if one coach isn't cutting it, they get rid of them right away. They're like, oh, you're not cutting it, get out of here, new guy.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, it's just like, he messed up, give him one more shot and see if he can bounce back. But no, what they do is like, oh, you lost, you're cut. Oh, you lost, you're cut. It's like, stick to one person, man. Just like you stick to one lineup, stick to one person. Jesus.
No, I agree. So, with that, we will see how these teams go. They both have the next international break. I know for friendlies, I know USA plays Colombia on October 11th, and they're playing Peru on October 16th. That same week, Mexico should be playing. I don't know which. I did not write down which two they're playing, but it'll be that week of October 11th.
One thing they also need to do, and I was thinking about this, it's like, all right, I mean, no disrespect to like Central America or whatever, but stop playing friendlies against those teams. You need to play friendlies against teams that are top-tier teams, that are in the World Cup, that they win championships. Get a friendly against Germany, USA and Germany. Get that going. Why? Because it's a taste of what you want in the World Cup. You want those friendlies.
I will say this, though. I will respect USA this. They're not wasting their time with the Honduras's and then the Costa Ricas. I mean, they or even, teams who weren't even close to making it, like, El Salvador or stuff like that. They played, their friendly was Mexico and Brazil. The next two, Colombia and Peru. All 4 World Cup teams. So I will give them that. It'd be interesting to see how they go forward. But yes, I agree. You've played against some of the top tier South American teams. Mix in some of those top tier European teams. Because we know that European teams make up a third, if not more, of the teams that qualify for the World Cup. Oh, yeah. So you're going to be playing against European competition in your group, and you're definitely going to be playing against European competition if you advance. So you have to get used to those standards. And once again, don't play the crappy teams that aren't going to make it. Don't go play Ireland.
Push your limits. Really test your team. Really test your coach. Saying, okay, we need to build off of this. Don't go and play. All right, we're going to play Honduras for fun. We fight. No, push yourselves, man.
Yeah, definitely. All right, with that, we will be wrapping things up. We're hitting right on the dot at an hour, so quick show today. But we will come back to you in October, probably later in the month. We'll come at you again probably pretty regularly after these friendlies, because in a month from now, we'll have another round of friendlies to talk about. We'll be down to the final, we'll be down to preview the playoffs for the MLS, because they'll be about to start at the end of October. And then we also be talking about Liga MX, which will be in their last, probably 3 or 4 games at that point. So the final push for the playoffs. So we'll come to you later in October with that. Once again, make sure to always, if you like what we're talking about, comment on the video, like the page, and share with your friends. But it's been cool. It's been 20 episodes. We're now almost a year and a half in, so it's been fun doing this with y'all at least once a month. So we're going to keep doing it as long as y'all want us to do it. So we appreciate it. I'm Sean Tellez. That's Raul Villarreal. We'll catch you in about a month. All right. Oh, in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month starting. If Joe's still watching, this goes out to you. I saw him tune in. I am Rich Will.
Yeah, everybody go to Rich Will. Get Raul your jersey again.
Sweet Portland. We got a trader in our man.